Okay, let's cast on a pair of socks, or a single sock actually, using the figure 8 cast on. If I can find my skein end here, give me a second, there it is. All right, so the first thing we do is we have our 2 double pointed needles that I kind of hold a little bit separate so that the stitches don't get too tight. And we take the yarn and we go over the top of the bottom needle like so, and I hold it with my thumb so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm gonna wrap the 2 needles using a figure 8 like so, for the amount of stitches that I want. And for my socks, I always cast on 12 stitches per on the top needle and 12 on the bottom. So here we go. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12. Then I kind of hold that second thread with my finger, grab another knitting needle, and we're starting to knit in. So the first group is always the trickiest because you want to make sure that all your figure 8s don't fall off the needles. So I'm just going to go in, and even though I normally knit continental in this first batch, I am knitting English so that I can hold my tension carefully. Be cognizant of your end there, make sure it doesn't fall off. Get loose, keep that pinched pretty closely. What I'm doing is I'm knitting on 6 of my 12 stitches, like so. And when I get to 6, I'm going to introduce another needle. Let me grab that needle, and you can see how it'll just kind of hang there, but you don't want to get distracted or lose your focus. So here we go with the next 6. And you can see it's getting a little harder to manage. I want to pull it tight, but not so tight that I can't knit into the stitches. That's why you keep the separation of your needles. And you see I'm not really worrying about that other needle. It's sort of hanging out there on the end. And then we do the last stitch, and you take out your needle, and then I kind of pull it tight like so. Now, I'm rotating it so the long end is on the top now, and your working yarn is on the right, and we're going to do the long row. I'm not going to introduce another needle, but see how this stitch is kind of open here? You can kind of see that there. What I'm going to do, instead of my usual way of knitting, which is to go in on this side, I'm going to go in the front so the stitch twists a little bit. Some people knit that way anyway, so just make sure that that stitch is twisting, and it'll make it so you don't have holes in your toes. Nobody wants holes in their toes. I mean, you can solve a lot of these problems at the end when you weave in your ends, but this is helpful for making it a little tighter from the beginning. Less work to do at the end. So you can see again, I'm taking that stitch and twisting it. My other needles are just kind of hanging in the wind. can see that I am using continental knitting, but you could throw if you prefer throwing to picking. And there's that last stitch. Now I've got my top and my bottom. I rotate it again. I'm rotating clockwise. And now you can see it looks like a little house. See that? You want to get it so that it looks like a little house. And then you're going to knit in the round. And on the next row, you're going to start increasing for your toe. So we'll just go around like that. And as soon as I am finished with this round, I will show you that first increase if my yarn cooperates. Bear with me here a second. You can see how my usual way of knitting is to go in from the back of the stitch, and that's why I had to twist that other stitch so that there would not be holes in my toes. And there are other ways to do this cast on, but I like this method because it has no seam, and so it's really smooth against your toe tips. If you have any sensitivity to seams, this is a really good cast on for a toe-up sock because there is no seam. You won't feel any weird knobbies in your toes. So we're knitting around, we're getting to the end of that first round, and you can see how I rotated it to start knitting the bottom of the house, so to speak. And I always knit my socks on 4 needles. The short ones I use when I'm doing a short row heel, which will be a later video. Okay, so now your first increase, and all of your increases are going to be like this. You see that stitch below? You pick it up like so and slide it on your needle and knit it. And then you're knitting, and you're going to basically make a stitch on the outside of each needle, once for the short needles, 1 and 2, and twice for the long needle. So we're going, you can see we're almost to the end of this one. And by the end of this round, you'll have 7 stitches on each of the short needles and 14 on the big ones. So there we are. You can see that, oh, dropped my stitch. You can see that stitch below right there. So I'm going to pick that up and throw it on my needle and knit it. And then we rotate to the bottom of the house and do the same thing on this side. You kind of have to clear that other stitch out of the way. See that stitch right there? The stitch below, and knit it, and we go across. And almost to that end. When you're at the last stitch, you will look for that stitch below and pick it up and make one. And that is how you cast on for a toe-up sock. You're going to continue around, knit around, and then the next row, make one, so you have 8. And for me, size 7.5 feet, I find that 12 stitches on the short needles and 24 on the long one is just the perfect size for my socks, but you can scale that up or down accordingly.